So we'll start again. Thank you, Hansard. I now welcome representatives from Communications Workers Union, Postal and Telecommunications Branch, Victoria. I understand that information on parliamentary privilege and the protection of witnesses and evidence has been provided to you. For the Hansard record, could you please state your full names and the capacities in which you appear today?
Thanks, Senator. My name's Martin O'Neill. I'm an industrial officer in the Victorian branch.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. My name's Elizabeth Williams. I'm a Senior Postal Delivery Officer at the Mount Waverley Delivery Centre in Victoria.
Thank you, Senator. My name is Leroy, Lazaro, the State Secretary of the Communication Workers Union, the Postal Telecommunications Branch.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. I'm Joanne Kelly and I'm a Postal Delivery Officer in East Bentley, Victoria.
Great, thank you so much. Now I invite you to give a very short opening statement. We'll keep it short because we want to get to some questions. So who is going to be doing that? Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, good morning, Senators. We appreciate the opportunity to give evidence to the inquiry. My name is Leroy Lazaro. I am the State Secretary of the Communication Workers Union, the Postal Telecommunications Branch of Victoria. I'm accompanied today by Ms. Joanne Kelly and Ms. Elizabeth Williams, who are both posties in Melbourne, and Mr. Martin O'Neill, an industrial officer in our branch. It should be of concern to every Australian that COVID-19 has been used as a cover to progress a structural reform agenda that nobody has acknowledged exists. It is increasingly clear from the evidence before the Senate that the temporary regulations are a vehicle to embed the structural features of this agenda by stealth. This, in our view, is not a proper or responsible way to make public policy. The workers of Australia Post, the post office licensees, and the public deserve more respect than this. If this undeclared agenda is successful, it will gradually degrade Australia Post until it is no longer a community institution. Instead, it will become an entity primarily run for the financial interests of shareholders, overtaken by a culture of unrestrained commercialism with little to no regard for the public interest and community service obligations. This is not what Victorians want. We wish to turn to the alternate delivery model, also known as the ADM, and the issues it caused in Victoria. There is a myth that traditional posties did not deliver parcels prior to COVID-19. This claim is false, and we respectfully put to you that anyone who makes this claim is either misinformed or is seeking to misinform. Evidence from Australia Post to the Senate in 2018 clearly stated at that time that posties carried 45% of total parcel volumes, and this was growing. Every postie, bar none, deliver mail, packets, and small to medium parcels prior to COVID-19, and it was an efficient model of work. The introduction of the ADM saw roughly 2 in 4 posties shifted from traditional rounds on motorbikes, EAMBs, and 3-wheel vehicles into vans. Imagine you have this large van that's expensive to lease, uses more petrol, is constantly battling traffic, has to find a park in Metro Melbourne, and is 80% empty, carrying the same small product that posties used to carry. Then contrast this with a motorbike, an EAMB, or a 3-wheel electric bike, which takes advantage of the footpath, is faster to dismount when necessary, that's far more efficient, and is better environmentally. Put simply, the vans magnified the bottlenecks the lockdown caused in Victoria, and despite numerous requests to suspend the implementation of ADM in Victoria due to the extra difficulties it was causing, Australia Post refused. It made an already very stressful time even worse, and our survey that was tabled as part of our submission clearly identifies the moral and mental health issues that the ADM created in Victoria. Joanne and Elizabeth can talk to this firsthand. Some like to claim these postie vans are full of heavy product and big parcels. This is not true. Large parcels are being carried by contractors as they were before COVID. It is still unclear to us who the actual architects of the ADM are, but the more efficient and faster delivery of parcels did not end up as a result. Ms. Holgate has given evidence to the inquiry that the government and Australia Post need to acknowledge the role of the traditional mail service and restore the priority mail for businesses that need a CSO offering on top of regular mail, and that the pre-COVID regulations need to recommence on July 1, 2021. We agree that Australia Post should expand services. more financial, insurance and telecommunication offerings branded Australia Post, for instance, should be offered via corporate and licensed post offices. The original decision that has since been reversed due to public pressure to end the perishable freight service to thousands of small producers occurred under the acting CEO and is an example of the myopic thinking that seems prevalent in the ranks of government, the Australia Post Board, and among certain Australia Post executives. Australia Post needs to focus to expanding services and not cutting them, and finding new ways to leverage off the fact that posties are passing every house every day. There will come a time in the not too distant future where posties will have a small parcel for nearly every house. Australia Post rarely consult in a manner which provides a bona fide opportunity to influence the decision maker. An example of the lack of effective consultation was the evidence given to the inquiry by Mr. Rodney Boyce and Mr. Rod Barnes that Australia Post are making considerable plans to operationally revert to standards. This was the first time we have heard of any such plans, and on a telephone hookup the very next day, senior Victorian management professed no knowledge of any such plans. The logistical difficulties of switching back to the previous delivery structure has been exaggerated. The statement by Mr. Barnes that there has to be a complete restructure of 10,000 delivery rounds suggests it is an issue more problematic than it actually is, and my colleagues here can attest to that. Finally, we thank the committee again for the opportunity to make an opening statement, and we look forward to any questions. Thank you.
Senator Carr.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lazaro. You said that information that the attempt being either to misinform or to seek to misinform. Those are the words you used?
Yes.
In regard to evidence presented to this committee and to other committees in the Parliament concerning the operations of the regulations. Now, in their evidence to this committee, Ms. Holgate said that the relief given by the government had some similarity to the Boston Consulting Group's Reform Path 2. Now, I'm wondering if you'd like to comment on whether you think that the supporters of the Boston Consulting Group's agenda were seeking to exaggerate the state of affairs within Australia Post, the effects on letters and on parcels. In fact, we're even attempting to sabotage the letter business in order to justify the alternative delivery model.
Thank you, Senator, for your question. We believe that every postie in Victoria, in Melbourne, passes every house, carries a letter, if it is there for every house, or a parcel, or UMS. And from what we understand, the ADM being introduced was very similar to what the BCG or Boston Consulting Group recommended in its phase or part 2 or part 3 of its recommendation. And it sort of said that it's slashing services and cutting jobs is, from what we understand, would be the outcome. And ADM, when it was first introduced, was very similar in its attempt to slash services and to cut jobs.
You see, so when you use the terms misinformed or seeking to misinform, they're quite strong expressions. Are you saying that the public has been deceived about the true intentions of the so-called temporary relief regulations?
Well, Senator Carr, we believe that our posties, or the posties in Victoria, have always been delivering parcels, small parcels, medium parcels, letters, and they have been doing it over 30, 40, hundreds of years. So the reference I made that there is a myth that traditional posties did not deliver parcels prior to COVID-19 was anyone who makes this statement was actually either misinformed or seeking to misinform.
Well, could I ask Ms. Kelly and Ms. Williams how the operations of these regulations has affected the work that you do as people that actually deliver the mail? Yes, posties. Yeah.
Thank you, Senator. I'd like to start by saying that I've worked for Australia Post for approximately 13 years. I love the company and I'm proud to work for the company until recently. For 200 years, over 200 years now, Australia Post has been providing a service to the community. Now, I haven't been part of it for that long, obviously, but in my short time here, I've been proud to work. I've been proud to clear my mail every day and make a delivery, passing every house on every street that I'm expected to deliver to. I haven't left mail behind. I've been able to complete small letters, large letters, unaddressed mail, and also parcels. We've been delivering parcels for a long time now. Quite regularly, I would deliver more than 120 parcels a day, small parcels and scannable items. And the information from Australia Post is that the national average has only once exceeded 120 parcels delivered by the parcel PDO on one occasion.
So, but in terms of your work, what sort of work do you do in terms of your interaction with the community, with the people, the householders that you actually meet? How has that changed?
I'm on a designated round, so every day I deliver, I see the same people. I get to talk to them. I have a number of vulnerable and elderly customers and residents on my round, and it's great to be able to check in with them and see how they're going. Unfortunately, with only doing the second day delivery, one of those people on Tuesdays and Thursdays receives home help. So I don't check in with them then. There's already too many people in the household after, especially the lockdowns and restrictions that we've been going through. I'd hate to put someone else's health at risk, but on those alternate days, I would always stick my head in and just make sure that she was doing okay. To be living alone and feel as isolated as I assume she did, I thought she really appreciated seeing the postie every day.
So, Ms Kelly, is it the case that as a postie, you've got this other part of the job, not just delivering a letter or a parcel to the door, but you've actually got a community, that's part of the community service obligation to actually have that human contact?
Absolutely. I work as a community service representative, and I respect and value our community service obligations. They're called that for a reason, because they are what the community expects.
How do you know that people value this?
I see it on their faces every day.
And you said some older people, is it?
Yes, plenty of older and vulnerable people, people that are living alone, people that require our service to ensure that they get
and I'm just wondering how you'd measure that in the profit and loss accounts for the Australia Post.
There's no monetary value put on something like that.
Ms Williams, how does your depot work?
Well, I'm a reliever. I'm a senior postal delivery officer, so I don't have a fixed round. I go into Joanne's boots or, to deliver her round when she's away. Now, quite often amongst the posties, there is the communication that, Mrs Jones at number 35 lives by herself. If you don't see her for a couple of days, can you check on her? So there is that community well, it's not an expectation. We love to do it. We love to be involved within the community. So to provide less service to the community just doesn't seem a viable option to us. And it seems that the alternative delivery model is providing less service to the community.
Senator Carr, final question.
Yeah, is there a statement of values that you are required to work by?
We do have our code of ethics, and in our code of ethics, which most posties do all posties abide by, we're obliged to abide by them. We have our purpose and values, and our purpose is we connect with people, we connect people with each other and the world. We help unlock opportunities to everyone. Our purpose is why we exist. It's what we believe in and what we want to make possible for everyone. We want what we do may change over time to meet the needs of our customers and the community, but our purpose, why we do it, will never change. After all, that's the reason we started more than 200 years ago. And that's in our code of ethics.
Can we have a copy of that?
Sure.
Thank you. Senator Henderson.
Thank you very much, Chair. Look, I just wanted to, Mr Lazaro, go to your evidence in relation to your so-called knowledge about the BCG report. You've reflected not just on Australia Post, but on a number of unions which embrace the alternative delivery method throughout the pandemic. Why are you now suggesting that there was another motive for it? And what's the evidence, given that I assume you have no knowledge of the BCG report?
Thank you, Senator Henderson. Yes, we do not have any clear knowledge of the BCG report. When ADM was being introduced in Victoria, it was a time when Victoria was in its severe lockdown, and I appealed to Australia Post high levels of management not to introduce the ADM, because right from the onset we were of the opinion that the ADM would slash or had the potential to slash jobs by about
But that didn't happen, did it? That didn't happen. In fact, we've seen in relation to postal workers, jobs go up.
The way ADM was first put on the table or introduced or put on the table to us as a union, it was having 3 posties do the job of 4 people. That was the initial way it was put on the table. And at that time, Victoria was in a different space. It was really struggling because of the lockdowns, and we said to management, it is not the right time to introduce something like that in Victoria. Obviously, management said, in their opinion, it was the best time to do so. And we were of the impression that it would slash 4 jobs.
But your impressions did not stack up, did they? That hasn't been what's occurred. And in fact, as I put on the record before, we've seen an increase in jobs during that dramatic first stage of the pandemic. And in fact, the lockdown in Victoria, which as we know was necessary because of the absolute schmozzle with hotel quarantine run by the state, that really was perhaps the biggest impact in Victoria when it came to the work of your members.
It is our belief that an efficient way or an efficient model to run at that time, given the increase in parcel volumes, would be having posties do what they normally do, and then having a few extra people employed to deliver the influx in parcels. That would be, in our opinion, a much more productive or efficient model of work than what was being put on the table to us.
So the ADM was endorsed by a number of unions, wasn't it?
The ADM?
Yeah, the Memorandum of Understanding, to which we were discussing earlier today, that was freely and openly endorsed because that was seen at the time as a job saver, a lifesaver when the pandemic first hit.
I guess when the MOU was put on the table, Senator Henderson, from Victoria, from the onset, we said we do not agree to the MOU. Mainly the reason being is because Australia Post was trying to rush this through. They were not giving us an opportunity to go back to our members, have a conversation of our members, because we believe there was potential for job losses, etc. But the main thing that drove us not to accept the MOU in Victoria, and I'm on record for telling Australia Post we do not, is because we were not given enough time to go back to our members and consult in a manner that would give us an opportunity to come back with a reasonable answer.
Okay, thank you, Mr Lazaro. I'm going to go to Senator Mackenzie.
Thank you for your evidence here today. Can you give me some commentary around the impact of the alternative delivery model on service delivery in rural and regional communities in Victoria?
Martin?
Thanks for your question, Senator. Look, as the committee's aware, there were a number of exclusions in regional Australia for the rollout of the ADM, and it was only supposed to...
Can you, if you guys want to have a chat behind. Thank you.
It was only supposed to happen in regional areas in Australia. I think you've heard evidence already that that's not the case. The one standout exclusion for us, I suppose, in Victoria was in Geelong, that previously was classed as regional, was then rechanged some years later to metro, and even though we requested Australia Post to sort of acknowledge Geelong is a regional area, they refused. They just wanted to roll out in the ADM in as many places as possible. Bendigo, Ballarat, for instance, you see more, Gippsland, still 5-day-a-week delivery, but there obviously has been problems in processing areas with getting mail out there. So we don't doubt that there's been delays in regional areas as well due to the ADM. We just can't provide specifics on that, Senator.
Yeah, I thought the classification rules deemed that if a community was 100,000, population 100,000 or more, it is classified as metro, and I would think that Bendigo's grown a lot since.
Yeah, I don't think that, sorry to correct you,
That's
Senator, but
fine.
I don't think that that's the case with Geelong, because there was moves made by the previous CEO, I remember, to reduce mail services in regional Victoria. I think he used the terminology at the time as over-servicing the customer, which we thought was an odd thing for a CEO to be saying. But just on that, so Geelong was I think going to be affected by that, and there was some arrangements made with Australia Post to then class Geelong as metro, I think, so that the mail from...
Hang on, sorry. We heard
I was
evidence
going to get
earlier
to
on
that.
about this is actually a 1991 census guide. This is not a decision of Australia Post.
I'm just giving Senator my recollection of what happened at the time when the previous CEO reduced the mail standards, and I know that there was some changes made at the time to Geelong's status. I don't think Geelong at that time were classed as metro, which under the 91 service of over 100,000 they would have been. They're actually classed as regional at the time. So I can't say, Senator, how them 2 points contradict each other.
When Mr. Fahour at the time
Senator
did try to...
Mackenzie's got the call.
Yeah, thank you,
Well,
Chair.
I'm just
I
clarifying
really
this is the
appreciate
area
it.
that I represent, but certainly at the
Well,
time
also
Mr.
do
Fahour...
I, as Victorian Senator.
Mr. Fahour did try to
Yeah.
peel that back, and
Not
we
really.
had a very
Not
big
really.
fight
All
in
right.
Geelong.
The
Could
more
I
you...
please, I have one last question. Thank you, Chair, for giving me the call. A couple of weeks ago, Australia Post announced that they would be halting postage of perishable goods, having severe impacts for rural and regional producers who depend on Australia Post. This was supposed to be something that came in March. They announced a couple of weeks ago that it was going to be implemented in June. They've now done a backflip. Can I ask, was your union consulted around the perishable goods? Because one of the highlights that Australia Post made about implementing this particular policy was that it was the difference of state health regulations, etc.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, thanks, Senator. Yeah, look, no consultation whatsoever, but that's not unusual. And if there was consultation, it would have only been Australia Post coming to us and saying this is the done deal, it's a fait accompli. And if lucky, we may have been able to tinker around the edges. But no, they didn't consult. First we heard of it was media reports coming out of Tasmania.
The ABC, Tasmania.
Yeah, was the first place. We spoke to some of our members in regional areas. I know one of our members has got a sister who is a boutique, boutique's the wrong word, organic cheese producer. Boutique, goddamn.
Organic's no longer boutique. It's quite mainstream.
That's my biggest faux pas of the year. Apologies. Yeah, but again, as Leroy's identified in his opening statement, it's an example of the short-sighted thinking of Australia Post senior executives. They don't want to grow the organisation, they don't want to grow the business, they don't want to move into new areas because it's all too hard and you need imagination to do that and some forward thinking. And a lot of them are just, let's face it, just based on their short-term bonus incentives. And they're
Well,
not focused
reflections
5 or
on the
10
board
years.
and the management aside, part of the BCG's report's focus was on the growth of e-commerce opportunities. I would have thought organic cheesemakers would be celebrating themselves and Australia Post's partnership in growing both their businesses and providing additional parcel deliveries for Australia Post. Do you think this decision and then backflip by Australia Post is as a result of the BCG advice that was supposed to inform the strategic direction of Australia Post?
I think so, Senator. I think it's a number of factors. Obviously, there's been a huge spotlight shine upon Australia Post. Let's face it and be frank, by the previous CEO, insights that we've never seen before. And the Boston Consulting Group is part of that. I think in the summary I've seen, we've only seen the executive summary, it talks and refers to services, extra services being somehow risky.
Just to be clear,
too
Mr.
risky.
Neer, you've only seen that because of what it was tabled in this committee.
Yeah, we only seen it when it was actually tabled, when it went online. I was
Yes.
continuously checking, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Senator
Chair.
Henderson has a follow-up question. If you want to put other questions on notice, you can, but we do need to move on.
Oh, look, thank you very much, Chair. I appreciate that. Look, I just want to clarify, whilst you have quite a different name, the Communications Workers Union of Victoria, you are a division of the CEPU, which entered into a memorandum of understanding embracing the regulatory relief. So it is the case that your union has committed to this temporary relief because of the very positive benefits it had during the pandemic, isn't it?
I think Leroy's already commented on that, but will add, Senator, that there were some benefits in it. There's no doubt about that. But from the feedback we received from our members after the MOU was entered into, which we didn't support, our branch committee of management didn't support it.
You are the one union.
We are the one union.
Yeah, that's right.
But we're obviously appearing here in a Victorian branch.
Yeah, no, I understand your division, but you are the one union which entered into this agreement. Thank you.
We have some
thank
unique
you, Senator
situations.
Henderson. Thank you,
Victoria.
Senator Carr.
Can I just be clear about this? The MOU was announced the day before the Senate inquiry got underway back in June last year, and there was a trade-off. You got job security in return for not criticising the regulations. Is that a fair summary of the actual terms of the MOU?
Mr. Lazaro.
I'll get Mr. Mr. O'Shea, you handle a lot of that talk. Mr. Lazaro, would you please comment on that, and could you follow that, please?
Well, we're
Mr.
not going to
O'Neill?
have time for both. Just give us an answer.
Thank you, Senator Carr. Well, I think that at that time, the most important thing to us as a branch was the protection of our members' jobs, right? It was very clear from the onset that with the introduction of ADM, possibly 25% of jobs could be lost. So I guess it was vitally important to try and protect our members' jobs and their incomes, and basically that probably would have been driven.
And it was announced the day before the Senate inquiry started in June 2020. Is that correct or not?
I'll have to take that on notice because I wouldn't be able to.
Yes, okay. Thank you everybody for your evidence, and appreciate the personal insights, particularly from Ms Kelly and Ms Williams. That'll be helpful for our deliberations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.